Everything was going fine until he suddenly lost his job. Then his wife packed her things and left with one of their children. He had nothing left except the little girl who stayed with him, to feed and care for her. He started carrying blocks at a construction site. But just when things got too hard to bear, something happened that nobody expected. Why did his wife return when it was already too late? Did he forgive her? Sit back and find out as we dive into this powerful and emotional story. Mr. Donald was a happy man. He lived in a beautiful apartment in Abuja. His wife Helen was always well dressed. People said they were the perfect couple. They had 2 daughters, Sandra and little Tina. Tina was 6 years old, full of joy. Every evening she would run to her daddy and climb on his lap. "Daddy, tell me a story," she would say with her small voice. And Mr. Donald never said no. He would open a book and read slowly, pointing at the pictures. Tina would laugh and clap her hands. Sometimes she would fall asleep right there on his chest. He would carry her gently to her bed, kiss her forehead and whisper, "Good night, my little princess." Helen would watch from the doorway, smiling. To the outside world, this family had it all: love, peace, and money. But behind that big gate, something was already going wrong, and no one saw it coming. Mr. Donald loved his family so much he spent money to make them smile, even if it meant nothing was left in his pocket. "Let them enjoy life," he would always say. One year he took them all on a 2-week trip to Dubai. It was a lot of fun. They visited nice places, ate good food, and laughed every day. Mr. Donald did plenty of shopping for his wife and kids. He bought gold earrings for Helen, fancy clothes for Sandra, and toys for little Tina. Everyone came back happy. One night Mr. Donald lay in bed, opened his wallet, and smiled. Inside there was a photo of Helen and the girls by a water fountain in Dubai. "That's my world," he whispered to himself. But what he didn't know was that the same wallet full of love would soon be the same wallet that breaks his heart. Mr. Donald gave his family everything he could. He didn't just give them money, he gave them time. He gave them love. Every birthday in their house was like a small party ground. Cakes with many layers, clowns that made the children laugh, bouncing castles in the compound. One day Helen's birthday came. She didn't expect anything special, but Donald had been planning a surprise for weeks. That morning he told her, "Close your eyes. Don't open them until I say so." She smiled and covered her face with both hands. He led her outside. "Now open," he said. Helen opened her eyes and screamed. A red car stood in front of her, shining under the sun. She jumped and hugged him tight. "Donald, oh my God, are you serious?" He smiled and whispered into her ear, "You're the queen of this house. You deserve the world." Helen broke down in tears. Sandra clapped her hands. Tina danced around the car excitedly. Later that evening, the whole house was still full of joy. Music in the living room, smiles everywhere. After dinner, Donald did what he always did. He helped Sandra with her schoolwork. He read Tina her bedtime story. Then he kissed both of them on their foreheads and knelt beside their bed. He looked at them for a long time, then closed his eyes. "God," he prayed quietly, "please protect my girls. I can't live without them." Those were the sweet days. Days of peace. Days of smiles. But while Donald was busy loving his family, something dark was already walking into their lives, and none of them could see it. At work, Donald was known as the family man. His friends always liked to have him go out with them after work. They would smile and say, "Donald, come with us. Let's go out and relax. Let's forget about this work stress." But Donald would always laugh and shake his head. "No thank you. You guys can go ahead. I just want to go home." One of them looked surprised. "Home again? Every day home?" Donald smiled gently. "My daughters are waiting. My wife made my favorite yam porridge." They all laughed and shook their heads. One of them said, "You're too soft. Your wife has you wrapped around her finger." But Donald didn't mind their jokes. To him, going home was not just about eating food. It was about peace. It was about joy. It was the reward for all his hard work. The next morning, Mr. Donald walked into his office like every other day. He greeted the secretary with a smile. "Good morning, Grace. How are the kids?" "I'm fine, sir," she said. But her smile was weak. Before he could sit down, his office phone rang. "Mr. Donald, please come to the conference room now." It was the HR manager. He grabbed his file and walked down the hall. His heart started beating faster. Something didn't feel right. When he entered the room, his boss and 3 other top staff were already seated. Their faces were hard. No one smiled. "Please sit," the boss said. Donald sat down slowly. Then came the words. "Mr. Donald, we found a problem in your department. A lot of company money is missing." Donald's eyes widened. "Sir, what do you mean?" The boss folded his hands. "Over 25 million naira is gone, and your name is on the papers." Donald stood up from his chair, shocked. "But I didn't take any money. I don't even handle the accounts directly." The room was silent. Then the HR manager handed him a brown envelope. "I'm afraid we have to let you go. This is your formal termination letter. You can leave now." Donald held the envelope with shaking hands. He looked around the room. No one said a word. As he walked out of the building, staff members avoided his eyes. Nobody asked questions. Nobody cared to hear the truth. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And this was just the beginning. Donald got home that evening looking tired and broken. He didn't greet anyone. He just walked straight to the bedroom and sat on the bed. His shirt was still tucked in. His tie was still around his neck. He held the sack letter in his hand, staring at it like it would disappear if he looked long enough. Just 5 minutes later, he heard a loud knock at the gate. Bang, bang, bang. Helen rushed out of the kitchen. "Who is that?" Before Donald could speak, the knock came again, louder. He stood up slowly, walked outside and opened the gate. 2 police vans were already parked in front of the compound. 4 officers stepped down. One of them pointed at Donald. "Are you Mr. Donald?" "Yes," he replied quietly. "We're here to collect all company items in your house. That includes the cars." Helen ran out to the veranda. "Wait. What's happening?" Donald raised his hand to calm her. "Please, I'll handle it." The police entered the compound and looked around. "That's the company car," one officer said, pointing to Donald's black SUV. They opened it and started checking the inside. Then another one pointed to Helen's red car. The one Donald had surprised her with on her birthday. "And that one too." Helen's eyes widened. "No. That car is mine. My husband gave it to me." The officer looked at her calmly. "Madam, the car was bought under a company loan. The full payment was never completed, so it still belongs to the company." Helen looked down. Her face was full of worry. The officers drove both cars out of the compound. Helen turned to Donald again. "So what happens to us now? What about the children?" Her voice was shaking. Her hands were shaking. Donald looked down at the ground. He had no answer. The same man who gave everything now had nothing to give. The gate closed behind the police. The silence left behind was heavy. And deep inside, Donald knew this was only the beginning. The next evening, Helen had just returned from work. She walked into the house holding her phone and her handbag. Donald stood up quickly from the couch. "Good evening, sweetheart," he greeted softly. "I just came back from the office. I spoke to the CEO himself." Helen looked at him but said nothing. Donald took a step closer. "He told me they've started a full investigation. He said that once they find out I didn't take the money, they will reinstate me. I'll get my job back." Helen crossed her arms. "So you're saying you didn't take the money? Come on, sweetheart. Do you really think I'm capable of stealing? I swear on everything I love, I didn't steal from the company." Helen looked him up and down. "Then you better pray they find the truth," she said sharply. "Because we can't live like this." Then she turned and walked away. Donald stood there frozen. For the first time in years, he felt like a stranger in his own house. And that night, while his daughter slept peacefully, he lay wide awake, wondering if love could truly disappear just like that. It had been 1 full month since Donald lost his job. That afternoon he went to the supermarket to buy bread and a few things for the children. As he turned into the aisle with milk and cereals, he heard a familiar voice. "Donald. Good afternoon." It was Jessica, Helen's close friend. She walked up to him with a big smile. "Congratulations. You married a strong woman. That promotion was not small." Donald smiled warmly. "Ah, thank you, Jessica. Yes, I'm really proud of her. She's been working so hard. We're truly grateful." Jessica nodded. "I'm so happy for her. God really lifted her. Please tell her I send my regards," she added, waving as she walked off. Donald kept smiling until she was gone. Then he turned back to the shelf, quiet. Later that evening when he got home, he walked straight to the bedroom. Helen was on her laptop. Donald smiled. "Sweetheart, I heard the great news today. I'm happy for you." Helen looked up slowly. Her face was stiff. "And so, why are you happy?" Donald paused. "Because your win is our win." Helen closed her laptop and stood up. "My money is my money. Don't expect me to feed you or take care of this house." He raised his hands gently. "I'm not saying you should carry the whole family. I know you're working hard for your money, but I was just hoping you could stand in for a while, just till I get another job." Helen's face tightened. "Stand in for what? Feed you?" "No," Donald said quickly. "I'm not dumping everything on you. I just need time. I've sent out my CV. I've spoken to people. Something will come. But until then, I thought." Helen cut him off. "You thought what? That I would start carrying your shame?" Donald's eyes widened. "Shame?" Helen pointed at him. "You didn't ask for my opinion when you decided to disgrace this family by stealing from your company." Donald's mouth fell open. "I didn't steal anything, Helen. You know that." Helen hissed. "The company thinks you did. That's all that matters. Now I'm the one walking with my head down every day while you sit at home waiting for help." Donald looked at her with pain in his eyes. "So that's how you see me now?" Helen didn't answer. She walked past him out of the room without looking back. Donald sat on the bed, staring at the floor. The house was quiet. Too quiet. And for the first time it didn't feel like home anymore. The next morning, Donald was lying in bed, eyes closed. He hadn't slept much. He was still thinking about what Helen said last night. Then Helen, who was sleeping beside Donald, opened her eyes and sat up. She tapped Donald's shoulder. She didn't say good morning. She just shouted, "Lazy man. Get up. Are you waiting for the angels to come and make breakfast for the kids? Go and get the kids ready for school." Donald sat up slowly. His eyes were red, but not from sleep, from pain. He didn't say anything. He quietly stood up, picked up his shirt from the chair, and walked out of the room. He went to the kitchen and opened the fridge. There were eggs, bread, and a little milk. He brought them out and started cooking. In the middle of frying the eggs, he paused. He leaned on the counter and held his chest. His heart was heavy. Then he heard little Tina's voice from the hallway. "Daddy, I'm ready for school." He wiped his eyes quickly, put on a smile, and went to serve the food. At the dining table, Donald placed the plates in front of the girls. Tina looked up and asked, "Daddy, are you not eating?" Donald smiled weakly. "Later, my dear. Eat your food so you won't be late." Tina smiled back and started eating. Helen walked in. She sat down and took one bite. Then she hissed loudly, "What is this? So you cannot even fry egg properly?" she said sharply. She dropped the spoon and pushed the plate away. "I don't blame you. All you do now is sit at home and cook rubbish." Little Tina asked, "Mommy, why are you talking to Daddy like that?" Helen's face turned angry. "If I hear you say peep again, I'll squeeze your loud mouth shut." Donald looked at her, speechless. Helen stood up, grabbed her bag and stormed out of the house. Donald stood there, hands shaking slightly. He looked at his daughters, Sandra and little Tina, and forced another smile. "Eat well, okay? Daddy is here." But inside something was breaking. Things had changed. And the man who once gave everything was now being treated like nothing. Donald sat on the couch with his phone in his hand. The room felt hot and quiet. He dialed another number. His voice was weak. "Good afternoon, sir. Please, I can work any job. I just need a chance." The man on the other end said, "Sorry, we are not hiring now." Then the call ended. Donald dropped the phone on the table and held his head with both hands. He had sent CVs to different companies. He had gone for interviews, but nothing came out of it. No one wanted him. Later that day he stood by the window, watching children walk home from school. Some were laughing, some were eating snacks. His eyes followed them as they passed the gate. Then he spoke to himself very quietly. For months now. Nothing. No job. No hope. He looked thin. His eyes were red. His hair was rough. He touched his shirt. It was getting old, just like how he was feeling inside. He closed the curtain and sat back down. The house was silent, but his heart was loud with worry. That evening, Donald was in the living room going through his phone again. Suddenly Helen's voice shouted from the kitchen. "Donald! Donald! Come here right now." He stood up quickly and walked to the kitchen. The sink was full of dirty plates. Pots were on the kitchen counter. The bin was full. Helen pointed at the mess and shouted, "Why didn't you wash the dishes? What were you doing all day?" Donald spoke softly. "I was making calls. I've been trying to reach people." "I'm trying, Helen." She turned to him with fire in her eyes. "Trying? You call this trying?" she shouted. Donald didn't say anything. Then Helen pointed her finger at him and said, "You are full of bad luck. Since you lost that job, this house has been full of stress." Donald looked down at the floor. His lips were tight. He wanted to speak, but the words were stuck. Helen shook her head, picked her bag and walked away. Donald stood in the kitchen alone. He turned to the sink and started washing the plates one by one. It was a hot afternoon. Donald sat quietly on the couch, scrolling through his phone. He hadn't eaten anything since morning. Suddenly his phone rang. He looked at the screen. It was Mr. Agbo, his landlord. Donald's heart started beating fast. He knew why he was calling. He picked the call. "Hello, sir." "Donald." Mr. Agbo's voice was calm but firm. "I'm calling to remind you that your house rent is already 2 weeks overdue. What's going on?" Donald stood up slowly and walked to the window. "I'm so sorry, sir. There's been a little challenge at my workplace, but I'm doing everything I can to sort it out." There was silence for a few seconds. Then Mr. Agbo spoke again. "I understand, Donald. You've always paid on time in the past, but I can't keep waiting. I'll give you just 2 more weeks. If I don't see payment after that, I'm afraid you'll have to leave the house." Donald closed his eyes. "I understand, sir. Thank you for the time. I'll try my best." They ended the call. Donald sat down again. He leaned forward and placed his face in his hands. 2 weeks. That was all the time he had. That night after dinner, the children had gone to bed. The house was quiet. Donald sat at the edge of the bed beside Helen. She was on her phone, scrolling. He cleared his throat. "Helen, there's something I need to tell you." She looked at him without smiling. "The landlord called today. A rent is due. 2 weeks have already passed. And he said if we don't pay within the next 2 weeks, we'll have to leave." Helen sighed and continued scrolling. Donald spoke gently. "Please, I need your help. Just this once." Helen didn't say anything. Donald went on. "I spoke to the CEO of my company. I asked about the investigation, and this is what he told me. Donald, I know you to be a good man, but my hands are tied. I can't do anything until the investigation is finished. If you're found not guilty, You'll be reinstated. He looked into her eyes. So please, my love, help us. Just pay this rent for now. I promise you things will be okay soon. Helen turned slowly and looked at him. Then she laughed, cold and bitter. What are you saying, Donald? She asked. That I should use my hard-earned money to pay for this house? She shook her head. Never. I don't care how you plan to do it, but I will not pay a dime. Donald looked at her in shock. This is our home, he said. Where the children sleep. Helen turned to the other side of the bed. I said what I said, she replied. Good night. She switched off the light and left him sitting in the dark. Donald sat there holding his hands together. 2 weeks. Only 2 weeks to save the house. And he was on his own. 10 days had passed. Only 4 days left. Donald sat outside the house looking at the sky. He had lost so much weight. He hardly spoke anymore. His daughter Tina came out and sat beside him. Daddy, are you okay? She asked, holding his hand. Donald forced a smile. I'm fine, my princess. You don't laugh with me like before, she said softly. Donald looked at her face. He blinked fast so the tears wouldn't fall. I'm just thinking, Tina. But I'll be okay. She hugged him. Don't worry, Daddy. God will help us. He nodded and kissed her forehead. That same morning, Donald stood up with a new thought in his mind. There's only one person I know who can help me.